I stayed quiet for a long time, not because I didn't notice what was happening, but because I was paying attention. There's a difference. At first, everything felt normal, not perfect, just real. He listened, he showed up. He knew the right things to say without trying too hard. And that's how trust starts. Quietly, I didn't fall all at once. I settled in, slowly, comfortably, like you do when you believe someone is safe. The changes didn't come with warnings. No arguments, no dramatic moments, just small shifts. Replies came later than usual. Conversations felt shorter. His attention started drifting, not away from me exactly, just elsewhere. I told myself it was nothing stress, work, life, because admitting the truth felt worse than ignoring it. I noticed how I started adjusting myself, choosing my words more carefully, holding back questions, avoiding topics that felt like they might push him away. That's when I should have known something was wrong, because love doesn't make you smaller. It doesn't teach you how to disappear politely. I was present, I was trying. But somehow I was no longer the priority. And then there was distance, not physical, emotional. He was there, but not really with me. His phone became more important than eye contact. Silence replaced curiosity. And every time I felt something was off, I was told I was overthinking. You're too sensitive. You're imagining things. There's nothing going on. And slowly, I started doubting myself instead of him. That's the most dangerous part. Not the betrayal, but the way it makes you question your own reality. She didn't appear all at once. Not openly, not honestly. She existed in fragments. A name mentioned casually. A notification turned face down. A sudden defensiveness that didn't make sense. I felt her presence before I had proof. And even then, I waited. I hoped. I told myself I was wrong because accepting the truth meant accepting loss. When it finally came out, there was no explosion, no screaming, no dramatic goodbye, just a quiet realization. The person I was holding onto had already left. He just hadn't told me yet. He said he didn't mean to hurt me, that he was confused, that things just happened. But here's what I understood in that moment. People don't accidentally choose someone else. They decide and let you find out later. I didn't cry right away. I felt empty. Not broken, not angry, just done. After it ended, the silence was heavy. No messages, no check-ins, no proof that I had mattered as much as I thought. And that hurt, but it also clarified everything. Because if someone wants to be there, you never have to convince them. The hardest part wasn't losing him, it was finding myself again. The version of me that didn't apologize for having failings. The one who didn't compete for attention. The one who didn't shrink to stay loved. I realized how much energy I had poured into someone who gave me half effort, and how peaceful it felt when that energy came back to me. Healing wasn't loud, it didn't happen all at once. Some days were fine, some days weren't, but over time the pain softened, the attachment loosened, and the clarity stayed. I stopped checking if he watched my stories, stopped comparing myself to her, stopped wondering what I lacked, because I finally understood something important. I wasn't rejected, I was redirected. Losing him forced me to stop betraying myself. And now I'm calmer, stronger, more aware. And sometimes he crosses my mind, not with longing, not with regret, just with distance. Because the woman who learned her worth in silence doesn't go back to places where she had to beg to be chosen. Because the woman who learned her worth in silence doesn't go back to places where she had to beg to be chosen. I didn't leave to prove a point. I didn't leave to make him regret anything. I left because staying was costing me myself. At first, I thought healing would look dramatic: crying at night, breaking down in the shower, long conversations with friends trying to make sense of everything. But healing didn't look like that. Healing was quiet. It was waking up and realizing I hadn't checked my phone yet. It was walking through my day without waiting for a message that never came. It was the strange calm that followed the chaos, uncomfortable at first, but honest. I had spent so much time reacting to him that I forgot what it felt like to simply exist without explanation. And that's when I noticed something unexpected. The absence hurt less than the disrespect ever did. I replayed moments in my head, not because I missed him, but because I was finally seeing them clearly. The times I felt dismissed. The times I lowered my standards just to keep the peace. The times I accepted confusion instead of asking for clarity because I didn't want to seem too much. I wasn't asking for too much. I was asking the wrong person. There's a difference. I used to think love meant endurance. That if you stayed long enough, tried hard enough, understood deeply enough, things would eventually make sense. But love isn't something you have to decode. Real love doesn't leave you anxious. It doesn't keep you guessing. It doesn't require you to silence your instincts just to survive it. I realized how often I had felt alone while being with him, and that loneliness was heavier than the one I felt after leaving. That's when the guilt tried to show up. The guilt of walking away, the guilt of not fighting harder, the guilt of choosing myself instead of giving one more chance. But then I remembered something important. I had been fighting the entire time. I fought to communicate. I fought to understand. I fought to be patient. I fought to stay. Leaving wasn't giving up, it was finally stopping. There's a moment after heartbreak where you start noticing how quiet your life becomes. Not empty, just uncluttered. No tension in your chest when your phone lights up. No rehearsing conversations in your head. No wondering if today you'll be enough. That peace felt unfamiliar, but it felt right. Slowly, I began to recognize myself again. The version of me that laughed without checking if it was appropriate. The one who spoke without measuring every word. The one who trusted her instincts instead of apologizing for them. I started doing things for myself again. Not to distract, not to prove anything, just because I wanted to, and something shifted. I stopped asking, why wasn't I enough? And started asking, why did I accept less? That question changes everything. Because when you stop internalizing someone else's inability to show up, you stop carrying a weight that was never yours. I no longer needed closure from him. His actions had already explained everything. Closure isn't a conversation, it's a decision, and I had made mine. I understood that people don't always leave loudly. Sometimes they leave in pieces emotionally, mentally, long before they ever say goodbye. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is let them go without chasing an explanation. I didn't become colder after him. I became clearer. Clear about what I allow, clear about what I need, clear about what I will never tolerate again. I learned that consistency matters more than words. That effort matters more than promises. That love without safety is not love, it's anxiety. And I refuse to confuse the two ever again. Now, when I think about him, it's not with anger, it's with understanding. Understanding that not everyone you love is meant to stay. Some people come into your life to show you what you deserve by showing you exactly what you shouldn't accept. And that lesson is worth more than the relationship ever was. I don't need revenge. I don't need validation. I don't need him to realize what he lost. because I know what I gained. I gained my voice, my boundaries, my peace. I gained the ability to walk away from situations that shrink me. And that's not something I'm willing to give up for anyone. So if you're listening to this and you're holding on to someone who makes you question your worth, if you're staying silent just to keep the connection alive, if you're hoping they'll change instead of noticing how much you already have, let this be your reminder. You don't need to disappear to be loved properly. You don't need to compete to be chosen. And you don't need to stay where you're only tolerated. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is leave quietly and never explain yourself again. Because the right people won't need an explanation. They'll meet you with clarity, not confusion. And when they do, you'll be ready, not because you waited, but because you healed.